Watching President Obama's second full-court press conference this week, I was struck by how the East Room was packed with more than 150 journalists, but only 13, pre-selected by the White House, were given the chance to ask questions and follow-ups. And the big story of the week, announced just the day before, about the government's new plan to buy up the troubled assets of banks, was barely touched on. It's a complex and controversial scheme that is quite generous to private investors, while putting taxpayers at great risk. It would have been helpful to hear the president's rationale for it. There wasn't a single question about Iraq either. Curious, I reached out to Morton Mintz to find out what questions might have been asked by reporters outside the White House bubble. For years, Mort was a crack investigative reporter for the Washington Post. After retiring from the Post, he winds up as a senior advisor to NeimanWatchdog.org, that vigilant monitor of journalism, both good and bad. Here are some of the questions Mort and his colleagues wish had been put to the president. Regarding health care reform, Mr. President, which do you think comes first, universal health care or cost containment? Mr. President, you're proposing a modest tax increase from 35 to 39.6% for families earning more than $250,000 a year. Back in the 1940s, 90% or more of the highest incomes were taxed, and the majority of the public thought it was fair. What would be your objection to, say, a 90% tax on incomes exceeding $3 million a year? Mr. President, even as you're sending more troops to Afghanistan, a former CIA station chief there raises questions about whether your goals are even remotely achievable. Have you seen those questions? And if so, what's your answer to them? Can you be specific about your strategy for dealing with climate change? What basic principles guide it? Maybe at his next news conference, the press will be more assertive and wide-ranging in its questions, and the president less controlling. Maybe. You can post your questions you'd like to ask the president right here on the Moyers website at pbs.org. I'm Bill Moyers, and I'll see you next time.